I appreciate the follow. Happy Labor Day, man. No mind me, I'm just doing my titles and stuff though. Probably just gonna be reacting a little bit. I'm probably gonna game later. Alright, but nothing pulled up though. No. Window capture. Oh, I guess. Okay. See what's going on. I was watching one on Destiny's debates, and I don't do that right now, but kind of see what's going on. Right, check out the news, maybe. I don't ever do that on stream, but how's my title still say 10th day? Or is that from earlier? Yeah, no, I'm straight. But
much. In China, President Xi is hosting the leaders of more than 20 countries for what's known as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Among those in attendance is Russian President Vladimir Putin and India's Prime Minister Modi. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer.
Racing. We couldn't have asked for a more exciting day.
An epic challenge to the grueling Australian outback, testing the limits of tomorrow's technology. Brian Chung, NBC News.
Super cool story, Brian. Thank you. Well, coming up, if you're feeling lucky on this Labor Day, we've got just the ticket to scratch $1 billion itch. Powerball fever is sweeping the nation once again, but how much cash would really go into your pocket if you strike gold on one of the largest jackpots ever? We're running the numbers next.
It's your news.
About anything to take home the grand prize.
We used ChatGPT to try and predict the winning numbers, and we got nothing.
Tonight's Powerball jackpot is expected to be the game's 5th largest ever, an estimated $1.1 billion. Only 6 Powerball prizes have ever topped $1 billion.
I ran to the store because I did not want to miss out on an opportunity to win some money, right? You just never know.
If you're the lucky winner, you can either take the full jackpot paid out over 30 years, or you can walk away immediately with a lump sum of almost $500 million before taxes.
For $2, you can daydream for a bit. It's fun.
So what would you do if
every year to sing happy birthday? Their granddaughter, Adeline Peterson, posting that video, racking up more than 3 million views.
To wake up the next morning to see all of the attention that it was getting, absolutely blew my mind.
Happy birthday! That response giving Adeline an idea to return the love for her grandma's 90th birthday. She put out the all call.
This is the information to send the birthday card for my grandparents.
And then?
This is crazy. 45, 46, 47.
It didn't stop there.
41, 42, 43, 44, 44, and 3 packages on day 2.
One after the other, card after card, eventually hundreds of them.
That is a lot of cards, bro.
Adeline had to color code them.
It's not like somebody just signed their name. They're literally in there
I
writing
heard something was going on with the CDC, though.
This morning. Plus, right now on Morning News Now, America on the move. That Labor Day holiday weekend wrapping up with a soaring amount of travelers. That's once again expected to break records. We've got everything you need to know as you head to your destination this morning. Plus, our Michelle Grossman is standing by with your full forecast in just a moment. Also this morning, pressure and pushback. President Trump ramping up threats of a D.C.-style immigration crackdown on the streets of Chicago. But the state's governor isn't taking all that explosive rhetoric sitting down. His searing response as the White House moves to oust a top Federal Reserve official who argues the administration is just playing politics. Plus, stunning staffing shakeups and mixed messages, putting some of the nation's top health agencies in turmoil this morning. Flight interruptions. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra is at Miami International Airport with the latest.
Okay. Good morning. It might be bright and early here in Miami International, but the Labor Day rush is officially underway. The early time not stopping anyone from all.
Like, where do you, like, if y'all watching, like, the VOD, I'm like posting like my most recent video like on like social media, like what, like where do y'all go on Labor Day weekend? Like, is it just like extended weekend or?
Already starting to get in those lines. What you can't see on the other side of the camera is a 25-minute wait at the security line right next to us. So this is something that we're expecting to break records that we have not seen in years. TSA projecting to screen roughly 17.4 million passengers in total for the entire holiday stretch, which is from Thursday of last week to Wednesday of this week. Now, the weekend got off to a bit of a bumpy start. We, of course, saw the weather from the plains all the way to Florida that caused a lot of ground stops between airports in Texas and in Florida, which of course causes a domino effect through the airplane industry. You know that we of course see cancellations and delays in other pockets as a result of those ground stops and those delays. But we also saw some turbulence on Thursday that left 2 people hospitalized on a SkyWest flight to Austin. We also saw ground stops at Newark Airport that caused more than 300 delays. But when it comes to some good news here, guys, travel prices, the lowest they have also been in years. And we know traveling by car, the #1 method of travel. A couple things for you: price at the pump, prices we have not seen since 2021, which could be another factor with these cheaper prices at the pump, cheaper hotel tickets, cheaper round trip tickets. This is probably another reason why we are seeing the travel numbers that we are. Back to you guys.
All right, Marissa Parra, thank you so much.
She blaming things going down though?
Let's take a look at what to expect as you make your way to home from your Labor Day destination and the rest of your week. Justify the move by alleging Cook committed mortgage fraud.
Darkest times, his father said, there will be light.
Our thanks to Joe McCoy for that report. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are responding to President Trump's controversial attempt to fire the Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook last week. The president tried to justify the move by alleging Cook committed mortgage fraud. Cook says she will be challenging her firing in a lawsuit. And now one influential House Democrat says Trump's actions were straight out of Richard Nixon's playbook. Here's Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker with more.
Whose playbook? Richard Milhouse Nixon was the 37th president of the United States, serving from 1969 until his resignation in 1974. A member of the Republican Party. Okay. Richard Nixon accomplished major foreign policy achievements such as opening relations with China and signing the anti-ballistic missile treaty with the Soviet Union. Initiated progressive domestic policies, including creating the EPA and signing the Clearing Act. Oh, wow. Okay.
Hello there, Maya. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke exclusively to Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California about President Trump's attempt to oust Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook over allegations of mortgage fraud, which she denies. And another issue we're tracking closely are the developments at the Fed, the administration trying to oust Fed Governor Lisa Cook, accusing Cook of mortgage fraud. She denies that, and she's now suing the administration, alleging this is purely politics. But, Congressman, let me ask you, do you think Lisa Cook should just release her mortgage documents to dispute these allegations against her?
She could be transparent, but this has nothing to do with the specifics of Lisa Cook. This has to do with Donald Trump following Richard Nixon's playbook to interfere with the Fed and bully the Fed. The irony is that it's his own policies that have created the situation. If he just repealed the blanket tariffs, he wouldn't be putting the inflationary pressure that exists, and the Fed would be able to cut rates. But instead of listening to every economic advisor who has said, don't just have these blanket tariffs, he's insisting on blanket tariffs. That's putting inflationary pressure and leaving the Fed in a no-win situation.
Well, given that argument, do you think Lisa Cook should just release her mortgage documents to put these allegations to rest? Would you advise her to do that?
Well, sure, she should release them. She should be transparent so that we see that this is just a political football and really it's hiding an economic record. Look, Chris, the reality here is the economic record of this administration. When President Trump took office, consumer confidence was strong. It has tanked for 7 straight months. Farm closures have doubled. Manufacturing was expanding when he took office. It has gone down every single month. Unemployment for young people, almost 11% for recent college graduates. This is a record.
Really? I thought like last week it was like 5%. Wait, like recent graduates? Yeah, it was like 5.8% in March early this year. 6 months ago. The highest since October. Let's say August. Probably what? Yeah, is he lying?
Record of economic failure, and the reason it is failing is because of blanket tariffs, because of mass deportation, including immigrants who are paying taxes, and because of interference with the Fed and expertise. It's time for a new economic direction.
You can see my full interview and a whole lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more at Meet the Press right here.
Turn to government custody. The Justice Department arguing the deportation policy is necessary to support pushback in plans to.
At the White House with the latest immigration. The Trump administration is also facing 2 major legal setbacks this morning, one on immigration and the other on trade. Our NBC senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is at the White House with the latest.
Maya, good morning. It's another legal setback for the White House, but one that it plans to fight. And it all comes as the administration plans to expand its crackdown on illegal immigration in another major U.S. city. This morning, President Trump facing new pushback to his immigration policies. Over the weekend, a federal judge temporarily blocking the swift deportation of unaccompanied Guatemalan children who crossed the border illegally. The showdown coming just as some of those children were due to be deported, sitting in planes on a tarmac in Texas as the legal battle played out. Some later seen deplaning. Overnight, the Trump administration saying all the children from the planes would be returned to government custody. The Justice Department arguing the deportation policy is necessary for border security and that the kids were meant to be reunited with family in Guatemala. Immigrant advocates calling the court's new ruling a life-saving protection for children fleeing violence.
So to all of a sudden snatch hundreds of children in the middle of the night and put them on planes is just unconscionable.
All part of the president's larger immigration push, which he's now looking to expand while he mulls sending federal troops into another Democratic-run state. 2 federal law enforcement officials tell NBC News that ICE, Border Patrol, and other federal agencies plan to increase manpower and scale up operations to arrest undocumented immigrants in Chicago as early as this week.
Chicago's coming along with every other sanctuary city.
But Chicago's mayor signing an executive order saying police will not collaborate with the military on police patrols or immigration enforcement. The president has also been slamming crime in Chicago, hinting that he would like to send in troops, as he's done in Washington, D.C.
I'm willing to go to Chicago, which is a big trouble.
And engaging in a war of words with Illinois' governor.
We don't want troops on the streets of American cities. Right. That's un-American.
Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff, who is the architect of the president's illegal immigration crackdown, blamed the Biden administration for children being in the U.S. without their parents, saying they were orphaned in America. He added that a Democrat judge is refusing to let them reunify with their parents. Maya?
Okay, Gutierrez, thank you. Former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani is recovering in the hospital following a serious car accident. His spokesperson said his vehicle was struck from behind as he was traveling on a highway in New Hampshire on Saturday. The 81-year-old was taken to a trauma center to be treated for a fractured spine and other injuries. Before the accident, Giuliani was said to be assisting a victim of domestic violence who flagged him down. Giuliani contacted the police for the victim and left once they arrived.
Bro, what is that haircut? Oh, that's
he
the
pulled
person
onto the
behind
highway.
him.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now. A little later, we'll take you to China, where Russia's Vladimir Putin is going face-to-face with President Xi and India's PM Modi. More on their agenda and where issues like Ukraine and America's tariffs fit into the conversation. But first, after the break, welcome back. The world's leading association of genocide scholars says Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. The 500-member International Association of Genocide Scholars passed the resolution this morning, saying the legal criteria has now been met. The statement said Israel has, quote, engaged in systemic and widespread crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide. Israel has consistently denied it is committing genocide and has yet to comment on the statement. It all comes as Israel expands its attacks on famine-hit Gaza City as it pushes ahead with plans to take control of the entire Palestinian enclave. NBC chief correspondent Richard Engel joins us now with the latest from Tel Aviv. Richard?
Good morning. The Israeli military's focus right now is squarely on Gaza City. It is the biggest city in the Gaza Strip. It is one of the only places in all of Gaza where tall buildings are still standing. The Israeli military says it plans to go in with force. Those plans appear to be still ongoing. Preparations are underway. Airstrikes against Gaza are happening daily. Humanitarian groups say that if Israel, when Israel, it seems, goes ahead with this plan, that it will be disastrous. But Israeli officials say that there are still many Hamas fighters, potentially several thousand of them, holed up in the city, and it may be where some of the living hostages are still being kept. This morning, Israel claims to have killed in Gaza City the long-serving spokesman for Hamas. Abu Obaida was one of the most senior Hamas officials still living. Hamas hasn't commented. Gaza City is now squarely in Israel's crosshairs. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in the midst of calling up 60,000 reservists for a full ground assault on the city, claiming it is the last remaining holdout of Hamas. Last night, during a 6-hour cabinet meeting, Netanyahu announced the offensive is still a go, without even discussing a ceasefire that Hamas says it has agreed to, according to Israeli media. Up to 1 million people remain in Gaza City, and the few international aid groups still working there say more Palestinians are arriving every day as they try to escape advancing Israeli troops. International agencies say Gaza City is already facing a level 5 famine, the highest level.
That's crazy.
Ala Jawad is returning to her tent with her son after they battled crowds to get some rice from a food kitchen, describing it as humiliating and insufficient. If they have food, we eat. Otherwise, we don't. My youngest son cries all day from hunger, she says. Opposition to the war and Netanyahu appear to be growing in Israel. Weekly protests against Netanyahu have swelled from a few thousand in Tel Aviv to several 100,000 2 weeks ago. Gil Dickman's cousin, Carmel, was executed by Hamas a year ago. Dickman accuses Netanyahu of refusing a deal that could have set her free and says the war is now doing harm to both Israel and Jews worldwide.
Netanyahu and his war right now, they're ruining the Israeli state and the Israeli idea, the moral of the Jewish nation, of the Jewish people all over the world.
And as for the potential future of the Gaza Strip, and much of Gaza is already in ruins, President Trump has suggested turning it into a so-called Riviera owned by the United States, creating business opportunities there. He even released an AI video showing what it potentially could look like. Well, apparently the idea is not dead, even though it was condemned instantly internationally. And according to the Washington Post, the Trump administration has been studying a detailed report that would see the United States take control of Gaza, turn it into an AI hub, and expel all of the 2 million Palestinians who live there in a, quote, voluntary deportation, and that Palestinians would be given a compensation of $5,000 and digital tokens for their land. The administration has not responded to our requests for comment.
All right, Richard Engel, thank you so much. In China, President Xi is hosting the leaders of more than 20 countries for what's known as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Among those in attendance is Russian President Vladimir Putin and India's Prime Minister Modi. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us now from Beijing. So, Janice, we know President Xi has been addressing leaders this morning. Tell us a bit more about what he said and what the goals of the summit are.
Maya, this summit has been all about optics, about the sort of messages being telegraphed to the rest of the world, namely to the United States. China under Xi Jinping is seeking influence and to present an alternative to a world order that's been dominated by the U.S. At this summit alone, the leaders of China, Russia, India, Iran, Pakistan, Turkey, and a dozen others are in attendance and showing that they're aligned with this sort of thinking. In his speech, Xi Jinping took some jabs at the way President Trump has been reshaping U.S. foreign policy. He talked of global upheaval and bullying without naming names. All of it underscoring, though, how Xi has been working to present China as this stable alternative for what he calls, quote, an inclusive world order. Maya?
Yeah, Janice, and as we mentioned, Russia's President Putin is there as well. What have we heard from him, particularly on the issue of NATO and Ukraine?
Consider the timing of this summit for Vladimir Putin. Just weeks after his meeting with President Trump in Alaska about the war in Ukraine, Putin today, again in the spotlight, blaming NATO for the ongoing war and claiming he has, quote, understandings with President Trump. He didn't say whether he's agreed to ceasefire talks, despite a deadline to do so. But by making this trip for the summit and attending a military parade here on Wednesday, he is again easing out of political isolation. And another leader who is looking to make his way out of the wilderness, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He has also been invited to the military parade, and South Korean media reporting that he's expected to arrive here in Beijing by special train in the next 24 hours.
It's interesting. We also know India's Prime Minister Modi is also
in without a secondary condition.
53%.
Yeah, I saw something about this when I woke up. Something about like the COVID vaccines not being able to be like accessed or about like pharmacies anymore. Something like that.
Kids now back in school and flu season on the horizon. COVID cases and hospitalizations are on the rise. But this year's seasonal spike follows upheaval at the CDC and big changes in COVID vaccine guidance, leaving many confused about who is eligible for a shot. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra has the story on the untimely mixed messaging.
As new COVID cases are rising across the country, hospitals are starting to feel the impact. But new guidance over who can get the COVID vaccine is causing confusion.
It should not be this hard. I should not have to go to this much time and effort simply to get a vaccine to keep me from getting ill.
Last week, the FDA narrowed approvals for the COVID vaccine to adults 65 and over, or younger people who have an underlying health condition. A big change under the leadership of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Health and Human Services Secretary under the Trump administration.
The FDA's decision does not affect the availability of COVID vaccines for Americans who want them.
CBS says its locations will require a COVID vaccine prescription in 13 states plus D.C. They won't administer any COVID vaccines for now in 3 states,
yes,
but
only
will
with a
offer them in the rest of the country
no
for those who
COVID
qualify.
vaccines offered.
Meanwhile, Walgreens not
Wait,
offering
how many? Yeah.
but will offer them in the rest of the country.
Oh, wait, hold on. So no COVID vaccines offered, only in 2 or 3 states. Looks like about like half, less than half. You need a prescription. COVID vaccine available.
Country for those who qualify. Meanwhile, Walgreens, not offering specific details, says it's, quote, prepared to offer the vaccine in states where we are able to do so. The COVID vaccine shakeup amid turmoil at the CDC. The agency's director abruptly fired last Thursday by Kennedy, a vocal vaccine skeptic, with 4 senior officials resigning in protest, citing ideological interference.
That's the end of what I can do as a physician who said that first I would do no harm.
The American Academy of Pediatrics calling the new vaccine limitations, quote, deeply troubling, insisting broader vaccination is needed for kids even without a secondary condition.
53% of those children hospitalized last season had no underlying conditions.
The mixed messaging untimely as the school year and the battle over these vaccines is just beginning.
See, but whenever, or at least in my experience, unless it's like something serious, like when did like people ever tell like their doctors if they're like if they have like underlying conditions or anything like that? I usually don't think I don't think most people do that, but
Marissa Parra, NBC News.
Marissa, thank you. We're sticking with health news and looking at more of the turmoil at the CDC this morning. 9 former directors from both Republican and Democratic administrations are speaking out in a new op-ed. They warned that recent decisions by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are undermining public health and putting Americans at risk. Joining us now is one of those authors, former acting CDC Director Dr. Richard Besser. Dr. Besser, good morning.
Good to be here, Maya.
Dr. Besser, you and the other authors wrote that Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his actions are unlike anything the CDC has ever seen. What specifically makes this moment so dangerous in your view?
Maya, this is like nothing we've ever seen before. You always have administrations come in with different political bents. This is the first time we've had a Secretary of Health who's held personally such strong ideological perspectives around health. He is one of the nation's leading anti-vaccine advocates, and you're seeing that play out. In your previous story where you were talking about the confusion around COVID vaccination, he is not listening to the CDC and its experts. He's not listening to the outside advisors who had been giving CDC such terrific advice. He is there with his own agenda, and it is a strong anti-vaccine agenda that is putting people across our nation at great risk.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned, as we heard Marissa mention, COVID cases are on the rise, and the new COVID vaccine guidance is causing some confusion. So what do you think the impact of these policy changes will have on families heading into flu and COVID season?
You know, I'm a pediatrician. I practiced pediatrics for more than 30 years, and I always looked at the CDC to give me the advice I needed to help protect the patients under my care. I don't think that I can do that anymore. What I would recommend to people is that they talk to their own trusted health advisor, their doctor, their nurse, their pharmacist, and get the advice that they need. You know, one of the big challenges, though, is if the CDC doesn't have it as a formal recommendation, many insurance companies are not going to pay for this vaccine. Medicaid will not cover this vaccine. State and local health departments won't have the dollars that they need to be able to run vaccine clinics for lower income individuals. And so your ability to get vaccinated will depend in a large part on whether you can pay out of pocket the cost of the vaccine,
Yeah,
which
that's
in many
another
places
thing I'd
is more
heard.
than $100, far out of the reach of so many people.
Dr. Besser, in the op-ed, you call for Congress, local governments, and even the private sector to step up. For everyday Americans watching this, what can they do to protect their health while the CDC works through these challenges?
Well, you know, you called out some of those groups that need to do more. Congress has a very important role of oversight of what the administration is doing, and they're not doing that. You know, I was so pleased Senator Cassidy put out a call last week that the advisory committee to the CDC on vaccines should not meet until there's been a change, until there's been oversight. Hopefully that comes through. Us in philanthropy need to do more. State and local health departments need to try and fill some of the gaps. But people need to pay attention because this will affect health. CDC isn't just responsible for infectious diseases. It's there to make sure that the water you drink is safe. It's there to make sure that your children don't start smoking when they're little, or if someone's addicted, that they have access to the treatments that they need. It touches every single piece of our lives, and we need to pay attention and say this is not acceptable.
Yeah, Dr. Richard Besser, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you, Maya.
All right, 20 years ago this week, New Orleans was dealing with a devastating impact from Hurricane Katrina. And 2 decades later, Louisiana is still trying to solve the problems that contributed to that catastrophe. Reporter Brad Hicks took a closer look at the state's new line of storm defense.
Along the coast of Louisiana,
most of this was open water.
you can walk on what, for years, has been water.
Hurricane Katrina was a wake-up call.
In the decades before the big storm, Louisiana had lost a lot of land, about the size of Delaware. Subsidence and manipulations to the Mississippi River ate away at the coastline.
Then you have saltwater intrusion that's killed all the aquatic vegetation, killing all the oak trees.
By the time Hurricane Katrina hit, the state's natural buffer to the sea had been decimated. The storm surge funneled unchecked through a shipping channel built 50 years before.
So really, Hurricane Katrina exposed that vulnerability.
In that channel, a welded cross now.
We're setting the stage for a U.S. Open rematch for the ages. 2 queens of the court.
996 and Farmington Road on Thursday.
Oh yeah, I saw this on
All
the.
caught on camera. Reporter.
This was yeah. This is actually near me, bro.
We're back
I saw
with
this on like Instagram, which is insane.
Dash cam video out of Michigan. Police officers deployed a grappler device to stop and ultimately disable a stolen vehicle last week. That chaotic moment when the device ripped out a part of the car was all caught on camera.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but they tried to get away, but
Reporter J. Scott Smith from our affiliate
They got
station,
caught up.
WDIV, has the details.
This is almost like something that you see out of the movies.
Yeah, it happened again.
The whole
This dash
suspension.
cam video shows Livonia police putting it into a car chase with a tool called the grappler. This time on I-96 and Farmington Road on Thursday evening.
You know, the traditional methods of pursuit termination techniques are the pit maneuver, where you're spinning the vehicle out. You know, it's kind of not sure where the vehicle's going.
The grappler is a net that wraps around a fleeing car's back tires, locking them in place. The long tether that's attached to the patrol car, which is similar to Spider-Man's web, dragging the fleeing car to a sudden stop. It's considered a much safer way to end a police chase.
You know, you have officers on foot that are throwing stop sticks in front of cars that are going 80 miles an hour. This is all, you know, compacted within the vehicle.
In this case, Michigan State troopers spotted a stolen Chevrolet Cruze in Detroit and followed it into Livonia on I-96.
See, Detroit is too close to me,
When they
bro.
got close enough, they deployed the grappler, which is mounted inside of the ram bar of a police SUV, stopping the car in its tracks. After being caught, the car attempts to drive off 3 different times.
Like Detroit's
The
like
grappler held the car in
25
place.
minutes.
The car tried a 4th time
It was
to pull
like
off, but
if you just literally go west,
didn't
or like
end well.
northwest, like
pursuits
you're in
down,
this area.
the high speed pursuits down to, you know, a
It's
stop,
like insane.
and they can't move any further.
mean,
And by the time the officers got in the car,
696 West.
they have no idea what just
Pretty
happened.
much takes you this way.
For that report, the 27-year-old driver and 2 passengers were
27.
arrested after the chase last week. Both passengers were found to have multiple warrants, and the driver faces possession of a stolen vehicle and a probation violation.
Yeah.
All right, here in New York, the U.S. Open has reached its final week, and the American women are taking the tournament by storm with 5 making it to the round of 16. Today, former champion vehicles which travel nearly 2,000 miles across the vast Australian outback using energy from the sun. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung has more.
The wind and sun joining forces, powering these futuristic cars, topped with new wind-catching fins, whizzing past real cars on real roads through the vast Australian outback. The Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, bringing 34 teams from 18 different countries to race, cutting right through the massive Australian continent.
See, I feel like it's a cool idea, but God forbid it's like cloudy or, you know, not windy or anything like that. Usually when it's cloudy, it's windy. There it is. What? Why is my screen